Lila's hand trembled as she held the remote, the news anchor's voice cutting through the silence of her apartment like a knife. On the screen, Aiden Cross stood in front of flashing cameras, his arm wrapped around a woman who wasn't her. The woman smiled, her diamond ring catching the light as reporters shouted questions about the miracle billionaire who'd survived a plane crash everyone said was impossible to walk away from. "I'm grateful to be alive," Aiden said, his voice steady and confident. "And I'm even more grateful to have Lila by my side as we plan our future together." The remote slipped from Lila's fingers and clattered to the floor. Her throat closed. This couldn't be real. She pressed her palm against her chest, feeling her heart hammer against her ribs. 6 months. 6 months since the crash. 6 months since they told her he was gone. And now he was standing there, alive, holding another woman, acting like Lila never existed. But here's what the cameras didn't show. Lila wasn't crying. She was smiling. A cold, calculated smile that would have terrified anyone who knew what she was capable of. She picked up her phone to make a call, but was unsure whom to. She moved to her desk drawer, pulling a folder. Inside it was a 47-page legal document, notarized, witnessed, and registered with the state. A prenuptial agreement that Aiden had signed. The contract had one very specific clause. If Aiden ever publicly claimed another romantic partner while still legally married to Lila, she would gain immediate control of 80% of his assets as damages for emotional distress and breach of contract. Lila had written it herself. She'd been a corporate lawyer before she met Aiden, specializing in ironclad prenups for the paranoid wealthy. She knew exactly how to write a contract that looked romantic but functioned like a bear trap. 3 days later, Lila walked into Cross Enterprises headquarters wearing a Valentino suit and carrying a briefcase. The receptionist looked up, confused. "I'm here to see Aiden Cross. Tell him his wife would like a word." "Mr. Cross doesn't have a..." Lila placed a document on the desk. "That's our marriage certificate. This is the contract he signed. And this is a court order granting me temporary control of Cross Enterprises pending resolution of our marital dispute. You have 30 seconds to call his office before I have security escort you out of my building." The receptionist's face went white. She picked up the phone. 5 minutes later, Lila sat across from Aiden in his corner office. He looked exactly the same, except for the confusion in his eyes as he stared at the papers in front of him. "I don't understand," he said slowly. "We're married." "For 8 months. You signed the prenup the night you proposed. Do you remember that night?" His face was blank. "I don't remember you at all." "Interesting." Lila leaned back in her chair. "Because I remember everything, including the fact that you told me you'd rather die than let your stepmother control your inheritance. So I helped you. I created a contract that would protect you from her manipulation. The catch was, you had to stay faithful, publicly and privately." "This is insane. Victoria would never." "Victoria paid someone to crash your plane. She paid Dr. Helena Marsh to erase your memories. And she paid Alara Hart $50 million to pretend to be your fiancée. I have proof of all of it." Lila slid another folder across the desk. "Wire transfers, emails, recorded phone calls. Your stepmother has been stealing from your company for years, and your marriage to me was the only thing standing between her and complete control." Aiden opened the folder. She watched his face change as he read, confusion giving way to horror. "How did you get these?" "I'm very good at my job, which is why you hired me in the first place, remember? Oh, wait, you don't. Because someone carved out those specific memories and left everything else intact." "If this is true..." "It is true, and now you have a choice." Lila stood. "Option 1, we stay married. I use my majority control to remove Victoria from the board, we prosecute her for fraud and attempted murder, and you get to keep running your company. Option 2, you fight me in court, spend the next 5 years in litigation, watch your company collapse, and Victoria wins anyway because she'll be your conservator while you're deemed mentally incompetent." "This is blackmail." "No, this is consequences." Lila picked up her briefcase. "I trusted you with my professional reputation, my financial security, and my heart. Then you stood on television and erased me from your life. I'm calling in what you owe me." She walked to the door, then paused. You have 48 hours to decide. My lawyers will be in touch. If you're hooked, subscribe now because this story doesn't go where you think it does. That night, Lila sat in her apartment and finally let herself feel it. The anger, the betrayal, the grief. She'd loved Aiden. God, she'd loved him so much it made her stupid. She'd believed him when he said his stepmother was dangerous. She'd believed him when he said he needed protection. She'd crafted the perfect legal shield and then watched him fly straight into the trap anyway. The crash had been real. The memory loss had been real. But Victoria's plan had a flaw. She didn't know about the contract. She thought erasing Lila from Aiden's memory would erase Lila from his life. Instead, it had activated every clause Lila had built in for exactly this scenario. Her phone rang. Marcus, Aiden's best friend and the only person who knew the whole truth. He wants to meet, Marcus said. Tonight, the chapel where you got married. Tell him no. We're done with romantic gestures. If he wants to negotiate, he can do it through lawyers like everyone else. Lila, he's remembering things. Not everything, but pieces. He asked me about the night at McGill's bar, when you beat him at poker, and he accused you of cheating. Lila's hand tightened on the phone. That had been their first real conversation. The night she'd realized Aiden Cross wasn't just another spoiled billionaire, but someone genuinely trapped in his family's expectations. What did you tell him? The truth, that you didn't cheat. You're just better at reading people than he is. And that he fell in love with you because you were the first person who refused to let him win. Lila closed her eyes. It doesn't matter, Marcus. Even if he remembers everything, it doesn't change what happened. He chose to get on that plane even after I warned him something was wrong. He chose to undergo experimental therapy without questioning why. Or Victoria made those choices for him. You know how good she is at manipulation. Lila sighed. 2 hours later, Lila found herself standing outside the chapel anyway. It looked different in the dark. Smaller and more fragile than she remembered. The door was unlocked. Aiden sat in the front pew, his head in his hands. When he heard her footsteps, he looked up. I remember, he said quietly. Not all of it, but enough. Tell me what you remember, Aiden Cross, Lila said, her arms wrapped around her body. I remember saying I trusted you. I remember you saying trust isn't the same as being informed. When we met, Victoria had just showed me evidence that she was planning to have me declared incompetent. Forged medical documents, falsified psychiatric evaluations. If I didn't get married to someone outside her control, she would have had me committed within a month. So you used me. Yes, Aiden stood. I used your expertise, your connections, your willingness to fight dirty when necessary. And I fell in love with you in the process, which wasn't part of the plan but happened anyway. And then you forgot me. I didn't forget you by choice, Lila. The crash happened exactly like you predicted. Victoria must have sabotaged the hydraulics. I survived, thankfully. But when I woke up in that hospital, I had no idea who I was supposed to call. No idea who would care if I lived or died. And Victoria was there, playing the concerned parent, feeding me stories about how you'd been harassing me for money, how you'd forged our marriage documents, how I'd gotten a restraining order against you, and she did the next best thing. She made me forget why I'd married you in the first place. The memory therapy. Dr. Marsh told me it would help with PTSD. Instead, she targeted every memory of our relationship. Our wedding, our arguments, the contract, everything that would have made me question Victoria's story. Aiden took a step closer. But she couldn't erase the emotions. I'd wake up feeling like someone, a part of me, was missing. Lila stood, unsure whether to believe the stories she was hearing or not. I know I shouldn't be asking favors now, but work with me. I am asking you to finish what we started. Take Victoria down. Take everything she stole from both of us. Use that contract exactly the way you designed it to be used. Lila studied his face. And why should I help you? Aiden hesitated. For justice. You're a good person, Lila. That day you came to my office, it was hard to believe you gave me options when you would have just carted with my assets. I hope just as the crash, I am very lucky to get a second chance with a woman who was smart enough to protect me even when I was too stupid to protect myself. For a long moment, Lila said nothing. Then she pulled out her phone and made a call. Martin, move forward with phase 2. I want Victoria Cross arrested by morning. Charges: attempted murder, fraud, conspiracy, and illegal medical experimentation. And Martin, make sure the press is there when they put her in handcuffs. She hung up and looked at Aiden. I'll stay married to you for exactly as long as it takes to destroy your stepmother's life. After that, we're done. No negotiations. No second chances. You're going to sign the divorce papers I draft. You're going to read every single word before you do. Aiden's face fell. Lila. Don't. She held up her hand. You want to know what the worst part is? I wrote that contract to protect both of us. Every clause, every contingency, every trap door, it was all designed to keep us safe from people like Victoria. But you know what I forgot to protect us from? What? Each other. She picked up her briefcase. I'll see you in court, Mr. Cross. Try not to forget me again before then. 3 months later, Victoria Cross was indicted on 14 felony counts. Elara Hart disappeared to Monaco with her $50 million and a non-disclosure agreement. Dr. Marsh lost her medical license. And Lila Cross, who'd kept the name purely for the legal advantages, sat across from her husband in a restaurant that didn't serve anything that cost less than a car payment. You're starring, she said without looking up from her phone. I'm appreciating. There's a difference. The divorce papers are ready. I had them drawn up this morning. Aiden's smile didn't falter. And, are you going to make me sign them without reading? Lila finally looked at him. I added a clause. If you sign, you agree to take me to dinner once a week for the next year. No obligations beyond that, just dinner. What if I want obligations? Then you'll have to earn them, the same way I had to earn back my sense of security after watching you die on the news. Her voice softened. I loved you, Aiden, past tense. If you want present tense, you're going to have to prove you've learned how to read the fine print. Aiden reached across the table and took her hand. Then, I guess I better start studying, because I'm not signing anything that makes you disappear from my life again, not without a fight. Lila squeezed his hand once, then pulled away. Good, I'd be disappointed if you did. That night, alone in her apartment, Lila pulled out the original contract. Not the legal one with all its clauses and protections. The real one. Handwritten on the back of a bar napkin from McGill's, the night Aiden had asked her to marry him. The night before she'd drafted the prenup, before she'd turned love into leverage. If you love me, it read in his messy handwriting, just say yes. No contracts, no conditions, just us. She'd laughed and told him that's not how the world works. That love without protection is just another word for stupid. That she'd draft something that would keep them both safe. She'd been so certain she was right. Now, staring at those words, she couldn't remember if she'd married Aiden because she loved him, or because she saw an opportunity. Couldn't remember if the contract had been about protecting him, or protecting herself from the vulnerability of actually trusting someone. The divorce papers sat on her desk, unsigned. She'd written them to be fair, generous even. Everything split down the middle. No punishment, no revenge, just a clean ending to something that maybe should have never been. But there was one clause she'd added, and then deleted 3 times before finalizing the draft. One sentence that would change everything. Party A agrees that upon signing, all previous contracts, prenuptial agreements, and legal arrangements between the parties shall be considered null and void, and the marriage shall continue under the principle of mutual trust without legal protection. It was still there in her drafts folder, waiting. Lila looked at the napkin, then at her laptop screen, then at her phone where Aiden had texted goodnight an hour ago. She could send him the version with the clause. Let him sign it blind, the way he'd signed the first one. Watch him choose trust over protection this time, knowing exactly what he was risking. See if he'd learned anything at all. Or she could send him the safe version. Keep the protections in place. Build a relationship on paper shields and legal contingencies. Never wonder if what they have is real or just well negotiated. Or she could not send anything at all. Take the settlement she'd earned. Walk away from a man who'd forgotten her once and might do it again, voluntarily or not. Choose herself the way she should have chosen herself 8 months ago. Her finger hovered over the send button. The question wasn't whether Aiden deserved a second chance. The question was whether Lila deserved to stop being afraid long enough to find out what love looks like when you're not armoring yourself against it. She stared at the screen until her vision blurred. Was she brave enough to stop being smart? Or was being smart the only thing that had saved her in the first place? If you're still watching, kindly hit that subscribe button. Back to Lila, she never did answer that question. But maybe you will.